Hello everybody. Just a quick sound check. I want to see if you guys can hear me. Just if somebody can write hi or anything in the chat box. Yeah, I see many replies. Hello everyone, and it is so good to see that we have managed to spark so much interest with the chosen topic today. We are going to talk about our brand new service. It's called Synology C2 Backup. And so stick around today for about 1 hour or so and find out all about C2 Backup, what it does, how it works, and where you can buy it. So as you can see, this webinar is under our usual Spot umbrella, but we have chosen a slightly different format today. And what I mean by that is that we have invited both our partners and also our end customers, because we feel that this topic is relevant to both. So my name is Ismar Hota. I am product manager for Balkans and Baltics here at Synology today. And I'll be one of your speakers today. And along me is our guest, Luka Manestar. And for those of you who don't know him, he's a very experienced system engineer. And he's also the owner of Black Void blogs. So actually, Black Void Tech is one of these blogs. And this is essentially a business blog for Synology users from the markets of Croatia, Serbia, Bosnia, and Montenegro. And of course, for everybody else who can speak and understand Croatian. And the second blog is actually the more famous one, Black Void Club. And I'm pretty sure that some of you might have checked it out before. So Luka here creates content in English. So do make sure to check out these two pages, as they are actually extremely useful and very relevant with up-to-date Synology topics. So without further ado, today's agenda is going to cover C2 backup in general. So here we are going to talk about also why Synology is going down this route, and we also are going to discuss some business analysis that we've gathered from internal research. And then in the second part, we are going to provide you with information on how you can actually test C2 backup and where you can buy and different options of purchasing it. And then in the third part, which is the demonstration part, our guest speaker, Mr. Luka Manestar, is going to show us a demonstration. And he will show actually how C2 backup looks like, what it can do. And Luka will also give his opinion about this. And then in the very end, remember to stick around till the end, because we will share some important info. There will be some follow-up. And of course, there's going to be a raffle. So if you stay until the end, you will have a chance to win a C2 backup subscription of 500 gigs. During this session, there will be a short Q&A, which will be supported by my colleague here in office, Boris Hlinka, who is the product manager for the markets of Hungary, Czech Republic, and Slovakia. So, as I'm sure many of you here today might be wondering why Synology is going into this development and going towards these software as a service businesses. And in order to help you understand this a bit better, on this slide, I wanted to present you a finding from a source called Spiceworks, which actually shows 15 different business scenarios, or how you want to look at it, 15 different workloads, and how they are split between running in fully cloud environment or on-prem environments. And also, if we look at like this mix, we would like to call that a hybrid environment. So although there's 15 of them, I've highlighted the three which I find to be more relevant to Synology, because for these three, Synology is actually able to provide competitive business solutions as well. So for example, when it comes to the email, we have the Mail Plus. When it comes to identity management, Synology here can offer on-premise solutions such as Synology Directory Server, or the very new Synology Identity for our SaaS solution. But since we are going to talk about mostly backup today, let's focus more on the backup criteria and look at the data a little bit closely. So according to this source, on average, 42% of businesses run their backups on-prem, whereas 46% of the businesses are running their backup solutions in this hybrid environment. So meaning some components are put onto a cloud while others are on-prem. And not to be neglected, around 8% of businesses, according to this source, are running their backups exclusively in cloud environment. Now, since Synology is well known and a versatile producer of robust backup applications and solutions, we have also been working in the past few years on developing new solutions that can answer to these hybrid customer needs, customers with hybrid needs and customers with pure cloud needs. Now, before I go into talking about these solutions, I also want to close any open doubts. So Synology, for one thing, is not moving away from our on-prem solutions. So stay tuned. There will be many new exciting devices coming out. But we are also very interested to bring our well-working solutions to the customers who are not necessarily interested in purchasing a Synology NAS, but would basically want to experience and use our well-known solutions. So this whole philosophy change is actually just move towards more flexibility rather than a change of business model per se. So when it comes to the C2 and the C2 cloud, so as I already mentioned, we have been working in the past few years on developing our C2 cloud solutions. And I'm sure that some of you today are familiar with using our C2 cloud, and you might have used C2 storage to back up your NAS, so you can run basically your offsite copy of your backup onto a cloud. So basically, you had your NAS in the middle to back up your infrastructure, whether it be virtual or your PCs and so on, from your office or from your home to your NAS, and then you could run an offsite backup to the cloud. Of course, this is going to stay, so nothing is going to change here. So the users who are using this service will still be able to enjoy all the benefits they get from running their backups from the NAS onto the cloud. While for those who are our managed service providers, you are still going to benefit from the management console that will help you to maintain and oversee backups of your respective clients. However, when it comes to C2 backup, this is that new service that is the main focus of today's presentation. And this will essentially allow you to run backups of your physical and soon your virtual environments directly to the cloud. So what is important here to mention, this is the first time ever that Synology is actually offering a product to somebody who is not the user of our NAS. So in short, you can freely back up your data without purchasing a NAS. Also, I want to point out that if you would like to test this, you can do so by actually going on our website and trying the C2 backup for a 30-day trial, and you don't even have to insert your bank card. So to recap, C2 storage, which is an already running service, is deemed to work for NAS and with NAS. And C2 backup is essentially a service that will be working without a NAS. Now, when it comes to the functionality of C2 backup, actually it can do quite a few exciting things, I would say. So with C2 backup, you can protect your Windows and Microsoft workloads. At the moment, we support backups of the entire Windows PCs. And for now, when it comes to the Microsoft 365 services, we can back up your Exchange mail services. C2 backup comes with an intuitive management tool. Basically, you can easily manage your backup tasks in an efficient way. You can run restorations and make policies that fit your requirements. With C2 backup, you can run a schedule, make it through a set of triggered backup tasks or specific events, essentially making sure that you never miss any backups. And with the intuitive recovery portal, you can also recover your PC and your data with ease in case of some disaster, should it occur. Now, when it comes to the functionalities of C2 backup, I want to share with you a roadmap. So at the moment, as you have probably realized by now, we only are able to provide backup to Windows platform. But in the future, down the road, we are going to include more platforms. So on the roadmap, we have Mac OS. In the future, you'll also be able to make a full DSM backup also to the C2 backup service as well. We are going to add Linux as a platform, and when it comes to the virtual environments, you'll be able to use you'll be able to back up VMware and Hyper-V. When it comes to cloud service, basically running cloud to cloud backups, for now, as I said, we are offering it for Office 365 to back up your mails and your accounts. And down the road, we will also include Google Workgroups. So this is an important message when it comes to the functionality. Now, in this part, I want to explain how a user can actually buy C2 backup. So when it comes to the presentation today, I will focus mainly on the individual customers. And I'm going to talk about backup that is deemed more for personal computers rather than for businesses. So individual users can either subscribe via our official webpage, or they can purchase a license from one of the respective resellers within their regions. And as I said, everyone who would like to test C2 backup can do so before buying it. So there's a 30-day free trial without any like a bank card attachment. So there's really no kind of a bank trap that, if you forget, you will be charged. So we are offering a free trial with a full set of functionalities. Since C2 backup is our new product, it may still be available to all our resellers yet and in all our markets. However, we have already managed to establish partnerships in the listed markets with listed resellers. And all of today's participants are going to receive a PDF presentation with fully functioning links. So you can also check out these resellers' web pages if you wish. And when it comes to the pricing, if you are willing to buy directly from Synology website, should you be interested to do it this way, you can also check out the following packages. As of now, Synology currently offers 500 gigs, 2 terabyte, and 5 terabyte options. Now, to also mention the business side of things, because this is also very important. So last but not least, there's also Synology C2 backup for business. So currently, the offer starts with 5 terabyte package that comes at €99.95 for the annual subscription, or €49.95 for the monthly subscription. This is before the VAT in your respective markets. And for each and every additional terabyte of storage that you need, it comes at €99.99 if purchased annually, or $9.99 for the monthly subscription. When it comes to the functionality, the business package allows a company to have up to 250 accounts, and there's an admin console to manage the backups. And it can actually be a perfect option for the companies who wish to deploy their computer backups directly to the cloud without looking into purchasing an additional Synology NAS. Now that I have said all of this, I'm going to take a little break, and I'm going to give my word to our today's guest speaker, Luca from Black Void, whom I introduced earlier in the beginning of the presentation. So Luca, the floor is yours. Feel free to talk and tell us more about C2 backup, and you can show us a little bit of like a walkthrough how you see our C2 backup, and feel free also to share your opinion with us.
Thank you very much, Ismar. This is first an audio check, if you can hear me. Everything works. Okay, good. Well, first of all, thank you, and thanks to Synology Germany for inviting me here to be a guest speaker. As you said, we'll now be going through a demonstration. I would just like to tell everybody that this particular demonstration will not be a live demonstration, in terms that we will use a live machine that we will back up and then restore, purely because it will take significant amount of time depending on the upstream and downstream bandwidth. So this is basically going to be a very detailed presentation with all the steps needed. I'll focus here on how you can register, how you can actually start C2 backup service, how you can use it, and then basically at the end we'll see a pure bare metal restore of that particular machine back to an on-premise device. So considering that C2 has been introduced several years ago as a single service, coming up with DSM-7, Synology introduced several new services, one of which is obviously C2 backup, both in individual and business element. And the common thing here is that for usability of C2 services, you will of course need a Synology account. So basically, by visiting a C2 Synology site, one of the first things that you will need is obviously a Synology account, which is a one-time thing that you need to do. It's completely free, and it also has benefits to use Synology account for multiple cases, including devices that you have on-premise as well, so not just for C2 specific services. In this case, you will be greeted once you register and log in with your Synology account. You will be, of course, greeted with a similar page, and basically a wizard will walk you through. Obviously, in these steps, you will be able to choose whether or not you want individual or business C2 backup, as well as the follow-up that will ask for a specific subscription. Of course, this is basically the element where you can choose whether or not you will use a monthly or an annual type of prices, basically. And also, as Ismar mentioned before, this is also a moment where you can, if you have, or perhaps if you win today, you can basically redeem your C2 backup subscription through a license for a particular data center. Now, as you will see in the next slide right here, this is actually, if you can see the grayed out area in the back here, that's basically the C2 backup welcome page. By visiting the previous link, you will actually be immediately after you log in with your Synology account, you will be greeted with a specific C2 backup license page, where you will, of course, depending on your C2 license, choose a data center, enter the license key, and continue forward. So nothing special here, because from this point forward, whether you're using a purchased license from Synology directly or from respective resellers through a license package like this one, everything that follows is basically the same. Once you actually log in, you will be landing on your C2 backup dashboard, similar to this one. You can always also see here that I've been using it for quite a while, since the first initial tier was only 300 gigabytes, not 500. So this is an older image, but regardless, you will obviously have your storage capacity on the left side, your endpoints, which will be presenting your actual devices that will be listed here, which we will see in the following screenshots, and your backup policy. In case you're using a C2 backup for business, on the top here, you will see an on-premise and cloud tabs, which will actually allow you to do a cloud-to-cloud backup, as Ismar before said, directly backing up your Office 365 Exchange only, so no SharePoint sites, no Teams sites, OneDrive backups at the moment. But considering this is a personal subscription, we won't see the tabs in the following images. So basically, how it begins. Once you log in, you will be greeted with this particular page, and I will just focus on backup policy just a little bit. So basically, the backup policies, which you can always duplicate and create new policies, what it is. Essentially, it's a backup policy that you want to map to a specific endpoint, so to a specific Windows device, or at the moment, Windows device. Whether it's going to back up the entire device, specific volumes, specific system volumes, you can define the schedule, whether it's going to be an automated daily backup or on specific event, like locking your screen or locking your session, shutting down your machine, or essentially after booting up. So you can basically choose whether or not and how you want your backup schedule to be triggered, your frequencies and your retention rules, how many versions of specific backup for that policy you want to keep. Obviously, that's going to go against your C2 backup storage, so be mindful depending on how many devices you have and how big the devices actually are. And also, as you're probably aware, the initial backup will be the longest and the biggest. Everything afterwards will be purely a delta backup. So just the changes will be backed up to conserve space and time. So obviously, every follow-up backup of the same device will be a matter of seconds or minutes, depending on how big the deltas are. So once you configure your backup policies, which obviously you can have more of them, you're basically going into the process of adding your first device, which will actually pop up a screen on the left that you can see. So it will tell you to download and install an agent on your device. In this case, as you can see, for Windows only. Like I said before, this is a bit dated image, considering that Windows 11 is supported and works as advertised. And the following 3 steps are basically telling you what's going to happen. You will install the device, you will sign in with your already existing, so at this point, Synology account, and you will choose the backup policy, and off you go. On the left-hand side, on the right-hand side, sorry, you can see the steps of installing, which is nothing special, a usual Windows installer. And basically, once you install it, these are actually the screens and how the agent will present itself on the Windows device. So again, you will get a wizard which will guide you through. On the right-hand side, once you go through all the steps, logging in, authenticating, you will also have to insert your C2 encryption key. Now, what's important to mention here is that C2 backup is end-to-end encrypted. Now, C2 key is a point in time. Why I haven't presented it here, because it's a element of your Synology account creation, especially when you're creating a initial C2 service, whether it's backup or password or whichever of the new services, you will need a C2 encryption key. And that encryption key will guarantee that everything that's getting backed up to the cloud will be actually encrypted before leaving your machine. Also, it's very important not to lose the key, because Synology can restore it, and you won't be able to mount your backups from anywhere unless you have your Synology C2 encryption key. So once you go through all the hoops and log in and select the data center and policy that we set up before, you'll be actually ready to initiate the backup. So nothing special here, very straightforward, really user-friendly from my point of view. So you don't have to be tech savvy to actually be successful with completing this wizard. Once the backup starts in a Windows environment, obviously these are all Windows screenshots in Windows System Tray on the bottom right-hand corner. You're able to initiate a small pop-up which will tell you of the process, how long it's taking, what's it backing up, as well as you can see all of this happening inside C2 Backup dashboard, right? So especially if you're having multiple backups running at the same time, so you don't have to watch multiple screens, you can basically see it all from a single dashboard. And this is basically how it looks like. So all of your devices will be listed under the endpoint element, and you can actually watch the progress from there. Obviously, once the backup is completed, you will again get a Windows notification, or you can see it inside the dashboard. This particular example was raw on just a little under 60 gigs, backed up under 38 minutes, which was very fast. Obviously, this will depend on your internet speed, of course, on your particular location, as well as utilization of Synology C2 infrastructure at that point. So it will vary, of course. But for an initial backup, it can take up to an hour for an average Windows 10 or Windows 11 device. Now, basically, that was backup. And that backup agent will remain dormant depending on your backup policy, on your backup policy. It will trigger either an event, you can manually trigger it from your dashboard. But now we're coming to the point where you want to use C2 in case you need to recover something. Now, there are basically two ways that you can recover data from C2, just like you would do it through Hyper Backup or Active Backup for Business, which this kind of correlates to both, is that you can either restore file folder, or you can basically restore a full device. This particular screenshot is demonstrating how you would actually access the recovery portal in order to restore a specific item from your complete backup. Now, this example included a full backup of the device, all partitions included, which was only one, but okay. So how do you basically restore? You can, again, log into C2 Backup Recovery, C2 Backup Dashboard, sorry, and then basically select your endpoint device. And using the menu here on the right-hand side for that particular backup, you can initiate viewing that backup or viewing that endpoint, better to say, in a recovery portal, which will essentially be this. A new window will open. You will actually log into or if you're not already logged into C2. And basically, it will present several elements here. A classic tree view on the left-hand side, the actual data in the middle, and on the right-hand side, you will see versioning. Now, considering this device had only had one backup at that point, we only see one version, but basically you can see here, and also a small calendar icon in the top, you can basically go point in time after a while when you have multiple backups recorded. You can go back in time and basically select a specific point in time where you want your backup to go to, and then you can actually use the navigation, the search bar, or the tree on the left-hand side to locate a specific file and use the download button right here in the top right corner to restore it. Obviously, you can do this from any device anywhere, as long as you have your credentials with you, as long as you have your C2 encryption key, or basically know your C2 encryption key. So the benefit is that you can do it really from anywhere. The only small thing that I would like to mention here is the search bar, which is kind of case sensitive, so just be mindful of that. And it works more of a like a filter than a search. So it's not actually going to search everything. It will depend where you're kind of located. I'm currently located, as you can see here, on desktop. So it will search/filter only the desktop element, right? So just be mindful. And as everything in Linux, it's case sensitive. So searching something will, small Synology letters or small caps will actually not result in anything here unless you really have it. But probably will get kind of tweaked along the way. Just be mindful of that. The other element is bare metal recovery. So C2 backup, just like Active Backup for Business, if you're familiar with that package, allows you for bare metal recovery. And what that means is that you can essentially use your backed up data, your backed up image of your endpoint, and restore it to a completely separate machine, or maybe on your dedicated machine after a hard drive failure or a ransomware attack or something like that. And you just want to completely wipe everything and basically do a complete bare metal restore. C2 backup, just like Active Backup for Business for on-prem restoration from NAS devices, allows you to do that. There's a very important thing here, which I'm kind of stressing that you do immediately after you actually do a successful backup to C2 backup, is a creation of a media restore device. Well, we'll see what that means, but essentially how you're basically getting into it. Again, you're actually selecting your endpoint device using the C2 backup dashboard. And from the More menu on the right-hand side, you have the option to restore entire devices, or you can download files and folders, which will essentially open a previously shown recovery portal. But restore entire devices is something that will initiate a complete bare metal recovery. Now, that will, again, open a sort of a wizard, which has also several steps to complete, one of which, and this is actually what I was mentioning before, something that needs to be done pretty much immediately once you start using C2 backup. And this is why, because the first thing that you need to download is actually download a Windows installer. So again, this is Windows only. A Windows installer that will install, as you can see here, C2 Backup Recovery Media Creator. So essentially, on the right-hand side, you can see it unpacked. It's an executable which will initiate a creation of a recovery bootable device that you will need to have on hand in case you want to do a full bare metal restore at any point. The reason why I'm stressing to do it immediately is because you want to have this prepared for when disaster hits, not when it hits and then you have to find another Windows device to do a bootable recovery media and create it and then go and restore. So better just to do it up front, have it on hand, and kind of peace of mind. Media creation can be actually executed or can take the form of either a USB media device, or USB key, or an ISO media, in case you want to, for instance, do a network boot over Pixie, right? So, for instance, you have 3, 4, 5 devices, you got a major malware infection inside your business, for instance, or inside your home, and you can basically do a concurrent restoration on multiple devices using a network boot, if you have the infrastructure, and maybe you don't have multiple USB keys, right? So in this case, every device would need a USB media plugged in order to boot off it, in order to go into the process, which you will see shortly. This particular example will follow an ISO creation. You're probably unable to see it, but there's a slight note here that says that you do need Windows ADK and Windows PE, pre-execution, installed already on the Windows device that you're actually using to create the media restoration device. Basically, essentially, you will get a file or a USB key, which will have Windows pre-installation set up with C2 backup elements built into it, right? So unless you have them, some elements will be downloaded, but for some elements, you already need to have pre-execution and ADK already installed on your device. So once the image creation or USB creation continues, it will follow several steps, about 15 of them. And essentially, once it completes, you're basically ready. And finally, we're getting into the bare metal recovery, specifically using ISO recovery, but it doesn't really matter, because the whole process, whether you're booting from an ISO file or from a USB key, is completely identical. Obviously, you will need a device that you can control BIOS boot up menu, so you can actually boot up either from an ISO file, from a network, or from a USB device. And you will be greeted with this recovery wizard. As you can see in the upper right-hand corner right here, there's a gear icon. That gear icon will allow you to configure network elements, proxy elements, and whatnot, in case you're, for instance, restoring inside a corporate network that needs a specific route towards the internet, in this case, towards C2 backup. So you need a clear line of sight in order to get to your backup. And once you get started, obviously, what's going to happen is that you will first need to identify yourself to C2. There's going to be a small Chromium instance in an incognito form, as you can see, which will spring up and tell you to identify yourself. There's going to be back and forth verification coming in. And obviously, once that's completed, you will essentially be greeted and allowed to get to your C2 backup data for your particular device. Obviously, one of the steps here will be entering your C2, before mentioned C2 encryption key, because C2 will not allow you to mount, or it will not actually mount and present any data until you verify it with your encryption key. So you're basically entering encryption key, it's mounting, decrypting your data, so it will be readable to you, and then you're basically continuing into recovery wizard presented here. Depending, of course, on your C2 backup, on your data center, on the number of actual devices that you have backed up, all of them will be listed here. In my example, it was only one particular device. And once you select that device, the second step will lead you and tell you, or ask you to choose whether or not you want to restore entire device, only system volumes, or any specific volumes, in case you maybe perhaps want to do only that. This wizard, in this example, I have chosen to restore a full device, so full bare metal recovery. We're basically simulating a hard drive failure, for instance. So in the next step, after you choose your point in time, your version, and everything else, you will be presented with a summary window to tell you how everything actually looks. As you can see, raw data is about 60 gigs. In the cloud, it will be deduplicated, slightly compressed. So backup was about 49 gigs. So it will compress a little bit. It will deduplicate. But the actual raw data on this particular device was about 60 gigs for a Windows 10 machine. And you're almost done, but you have to be very mindful what you're doing. So Synology Wizard is definitely informing you to be careful and that everything will be wiped out. It's irreversible. And once you agree to that, you just have to wait for your data to be restored. So backup of this particular machine was about 38 minutes, and restore was exactly 1 hour, so slightly slower. But in my experience, as Ismar said that I should give my personal opinion, this was a smooth sail. I really can't say anything that was wrong with it. It was really straightforward. As you can see from the images, it's also really straightforward. Not much things can go wrong. And all the mandatory elements that need to be selected and entered are basically really up there in your face, so you really can't miss those. And obviously, after the completion of that, you will be able to boot up into your device. Just like any usual boot up, you're getting a information to remove the media and allow your device to boot up. As you can see, this is a very familiar screenshot for Windows 10 instance, obviously Windows 10, not Windows 11 logo. The first boot up, or when it comes to bare metal recovery, will take some time because actually your Windows underneath is basically re-registering, installing all the drivers, detecting all the hardware that was underneath it. So the initial boot up might take some time until everything is set up, but afterwards everything will be completely as it is, all the data, OS, apps, configurations, and everything. So that's basically it. Back to you, Ismar.
So thank you very, very much, Luca, for the very detailed presentation and your insight into the entire C2 backup process. I think it was very easy to follow and understand, and I hope that participants and attendees today enjoyed it and really got to understand how it all works. So actually, we have come to almost to the end. I would like to give you some info about the raffle. My colleague Boris has just shared with you the raffle link. So if you are interested to participate, please go inside now and fill out the form, and you might have a chance to win a C2 backup subscription of 500 gigabytes. Also, please use this time if you have some additional questions. I saw that Boris was already answering to most of them. I want to remind you once again about Black Void blogs. So Black Void Tech is a business blog mainly for speakers who understand Croatian, while Black Void Club is a blog in English. And also very important for us, today's webinar is going to be uploaded to the dedicated YouTube channels that you can see on the slide. So please feel free to check them as well. And please, 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 I ask you also to take your time and subscribe to these channels, because this truly helps us to develop and create future content. And it also helps us to interact better with our customers. Boris, could you please tune in now as well and let us know who the raffle winner is?
Yes, so we still can wait, I think, like 1 more minute to give a chance all the participants to fill up the link. I have already so far like 25 answers. So we can wait maybe a few more minutes
Yeah, so the raffle link is the one in the chat. It's
Yeah, I
the one.
sent it already 2 times to the chat, so
All
I
right.
think it should probably work because I'm receiving the answers.
Okay. All right. Um, in the meantime, I saw that you actually tackled most of the questions. So well done for that. Luca, can I ask you to, because I saw a few questions, there might be some confusion. Maybe you can, in like 3 sentences, explain what actually bare metal recovery is, because I saw some confusion, and maybe it's the best if you do it because you have the most experience with this.
Yeah, I haven't actually, because it was really distracting, I haven't paid attention to the chat. But yeah, I think somebody already answered here. I can't find that question. There was a confusion what the bare metal recovery is, or basically if computer fails, how do you actually boot into it? Yeah,
Yeah,
was that the
exactly.
question they were? Yeah,
Yeah, that's the question.
yes. So if I can just scroll back a little bit, it's basically this element right here. So essentially, if your hard drive fails, as I said before, you can actually utilize from any device, any Windows device at the moment. If you recall, Ismar said that C2 backup, just like ABB, Active Backup for Business, at the moment does not support, well, ABB does support Linux recently, yes. But C2 backup, for instance, doesn't support any other platform outside Windows at the moment. That includes the Recovery Media Creator environment, which will essentially create a USB device with a small Windows PE pre-execution environment setup, which will essentially allow you to, once you repair and restore your bare metal device with a new hardware, for instance, you can just plug that USB inside, tell your computer to boot off that USB, and basically you will start, after you create it, you will be greeted with this particular window right here. So essentially, you will start a recovery wizard off a USB key, which will essentially follow once you follow it through your steps, you will connect directly to C2 and basically pull the data directly onto your new hard drive.
All right. Thank you so much for the answer. And Boris, maybe you can just announce the winner. 2 of them actually. So
Yes.
yeah. So just put the first name.
Yes, so I just basically put the random number in total number of the participant we received, and I got 2 numbers, and the first name is Gabor. We will email you. We have your email address here, so that's good. You fill it up, and then the second one is Christian with
All right.
C.
All
So
right.
we will
Congratulations.
email you right after the webinar when we will finish.
All right. Congrats to the winners. We will also have a follow-up email. As I said, we will put together today's presentation. We will have a Q&A session in more details, so you guys can check it out. And also there will be some additional info about Black Void and about our YouTube channels and how we can communicate. So that's it from us today. Thank you very much for your participation. Luca, thank you so much for your help today and for being a guest speaker. I think it was really good. Boris, thank you for your support as well. Thank you to the attendees today for their patience, and I wish you all a pleasant rest of the day.
Thank you. Thank you again. Thank you for
Thank you
having
very
me.
much, all.